want to talk about it at all. Let me take a second here. I might. And it'll be a second. And y'all know a second means like 10 minutes. So get comfy. I actually tuned in to watch Dave Chappelle's latest Netflix special called The Dreamer. And I had a number of thoughts about it and Dave. First, about Dave. Dave is kind of going out sad, and you really do hate to see it. I was a huge fan of the Chappelle show. I loved Killing Me Softly, his first successful stand up, and have largely considered myself a Dave Chappelle supporter up until recent years, when this nigga decided to actually go crazy. Not crazy like they tried to say he went crazy when he turned down the Comedy Central $50 million and went to Africa. David went crazy. I never believed that shit. I mean, I never believed that Dave was crazy. Even when that story was percolating, I'm like, that sounds like some bullshit. Like, that don't even sound true. But this latest special on Netflix, it just smacks of strangeness in the way. I mean, he's definitely giving me middle-aged black man and the phobias that go along with that, right? Because he's still banging on trans people, but this time Dave said, I'm gonna go a step lower. I'm gonna talk about handicap, and that's the word that he used. And he used handicap with intention, and he even tried to make some allusions to, what people have accused him of, including myself, about him punching down. Like, he's banging on communities, trans communities, marginalized communities, and now the disabled community. And it's like you're bombing on these communities as if these communities have any power. Like, trans people don't have no fucking power. Look at all the legislation pending and passed in states across this country, denying trans people basic health care, denying trans children acknowledgement of who they see themselves to be. Like, this is not a community that I would say is powerful. They don't have a lobby on fucking Capitol Hill. Disabled community, same way. Like, we are many because that is the nature of disability. 1 in 5, some say 1 in 4 people in this country are disabled. So there's a lot of us. I wouldn't say disabled people have any particular power in this country. And yet Dave Chappelle goes out of his way to still talk down towards the trans community. And now he brought in the disabled community as well. And in his stand-up, he referenced I think he's from North Carolina, right? Madison Cawthorn, the wheelchair user, who was a fucking cracker, okay? A fucking racist, misogynist, piece of shit. He happened to use a wheelchair, right? So even with that in mind, and now Madison Cawthorn could be all of those things, but I still don't think that he still deserves to have his disability specifically mocked. And I don't care if we're doing spoiler alerts or not. Fuck Dave Chappelle on this shit, okay? Like, Chappelle talked about being on Capitol Hill, and he saw Madison Cawthorn, and then just went on and, like, so I saw that nigga, and I said, "What's up, Congressman?" And he was surprised that I knew who he was. So then I just turned away and did some shit that I knew he couldn't do, and that's skip down the hall. And it's like, okay, that's cool, I guess, that you did that to Madison Cawthorn because he's a fucking dick. But every wheelchair user that heard that joke, I would imagine, was like, well, damn, I guess if Dave Chappelle met me in person, he would do some fucking crud ball ass shit like that too. Like, look at what I could do that you'll never do. Skip, 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 skip. And it's just strange. Like, it's not that I think that certain communities are off limits for jokes. It's about what is funny. I just need to know what is funny. Like, you have to tell me, as an abled person, mobily abled person, like, what's funny to you about the fact that you can do something that a wheelchair user can't? Like, I'm missing it. Like, I don't know. Another thing that Chappelle did in the joint pertaining to Madison Cawthorn. And let me be clear. Let me say again, if I'm not clear, fuck Madison Cawthorn. Fuck that piece of shit ass motherfucker. He's a Yeah, fuck it. I don't give a fuck about that nigga at all. This is about disabled people as a whole. Fuck him. But he was like, Madison Cawthorn was invited to an orgy, and it's like, who in the hell wants to have sex with a paraplegic? So thank you, Dave, for reinforcing that the disabled body is not sexually desirable, or that widely held notion that the disabled body and that disabled people aren't sexual in nature and that people don't want to fuck them. Like, I'll tell y'all a real story. Now, it ain't about me. Calm down, everybody. Everybody, I know some of y'all got excited. Somebody reached for that bottle of lotion. They're like, oh shit, Kim's about to tell her on the door. No. Simmer down. So, in my youth, I did work as a home healthcare aide. I think I may have mentioned this. And when I think about it, shit, I worked with a lot of physically disabled people, right? But this is when I was young and more abled myself, right? And I took care of this man who was a quadriplegic. He was a wheelchair user. I had to use a lift to get him out of bed. So I would put the lift under him. I would, jack him up with the lift, raise him up, swing him, put him in his chair, wheel him into the bathroom, get him out of that chair. I think I would pick him up actually out of the actual wheelchair and then put him in the shower chair and bathe him, right? Now, he was not a creep. Shout out to him. But he would tell me, not necessarily while I was bathing him, thank you. He, like I said, he was not a creep, but he would tell me how he would have sex, right? And I think honestly that sometimes he was having sex with women that he paid, but there's a lot of fully abled men out here also paying women for sex. So no judgment there. But my point is, disabled people have sex. Period. That's it. And again, I'm listening to this Chappelle skit or stand up and just thinking, I'm like, oh man, like all the folks that are hearing this and who are literally feeling bad as they're listening to these jokes being told about their very powerless and derided community. Let's be clear, you guys. It is only a somewhat recent phenomenon that disabled people are not themselves open targets of jokes. And some would even argue the disabled jokes never stopped, right? But I'm of an age, remember, when the R word freely flew, okay? I'm of an age, and, Trump is the most recent example of this, but mocking people who have, physical challenges like cerebral palsy or people who have Parkinson's, whose movements may be erratic or not normal to the rest of us. Like, those people were openly mocked. And I was hoping, in 2024, we have moved past just making fun of disabled people because they're disabled. Like, I get, like, you can, like, there's a lot of reasons to make fun of me. My disability is not one of them. You know why? Because that shit ain't funny. Like, it's funny if I make a joke of it. And I know somebody be like, well, Kim, that's a double standard. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a single shit. And to be clear here, Dave Chappelle is a big, big man, 50 fucking years old, okay? Dave Chappelle has a giant platform. And to be honest, this is the other thing I realized about Chappelle. Like, Chappelle is not funny like he used to be. And the other thing that I want everybody to be clear here, Dave is not the comedic genius that we once thought that he was. And he's not politically pushing any boundaries. What he's doing is making a point to say that I am so fucking lazy as a comedian. Let me make jokes about motherfuckers in wheelchairs in 2024. Nigga, you will never be George Carlin. You will never be Dick Gregory. You will never be Lenny Bruce. You will never be Bernie Mac. You will never be fucking Patrice O'Neal. Like, there's a lot. Nigga, you never be Cat Williams out this bitch. And I know Cat and Dave, they folks. But Cat has even said it. Like, to talk about more communities with less power than myself, he said, why would I ever do that? Like, what is funny about that? Nothing. And Dave Chappelle has rested so much on those Chappelle Show laurels. He's rested so heavy on Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories. He's rested so heavy on I'm Rick James, bitch. He's rested real heavy on this earlier work that necessarily wasn't revolutionary, but it was funny. And this shit that he's doing now, just randomly pulling trans people, like the joke he talked about meeting Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey was in character for Andy Kaufman. He set up the joke brilliantly. Like, it was a beautiful setup to the joke. And then he ended it like, and that's how I feel about trans people. And it's like, dog, that shit ain't you just snatched trans people into the joke. The joke had nothing to do with trans people, and you kind of fucked the joke up. Like, I mean, it's just sad. It's just sad. Dave is not a comedic genius. If this is how Dave is going out, that shit is sad as fuck. And I'm not gonna lie, I did laugh during the special, not at those jokes. You know, he made some DC Baltimore jokes that regionally, of course, as a local, I found funny. And he said some other shit that I thought was funny. But can I shout out real quick? Let me shout out to Markel and Parrish. Okay. Shout out to my homeboy Markel. Yesterday was Markel's birthday. Happy belated birthday, Markel. And Markel and Brother P came over to burn some. And I said, y'all want to watch this Chappelle shit? And we popped it on. And to Markel and Parrish's credit, neither one of them laughed when he was making them disabled jokes. And I appreciated that because, you know, what you laugh at says a lot about you. Okay. And at the end of the day, I know Dave is Dave, and I know Dave's an icon, and I know Dave is the coolest nigga in the room, and I know Dave's gonna tell us a cool story about how he was somewhere in Hollywood and some celebrity was out here acting weird and ha 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 ha, because Dave is an insider, Dave's an A-lister, oh Dave. But if the shit ain't funny, if the shit ain't the shit has to be funny, nigga. Like, that shit ain't funny. Like, yeah. And maybe because I'm on this side of the ability line now, maybe when I was more able, maybe would I have laughed at that shit? I do have to ask myself these questions, honestly. It's like, do I find this shit offensive now because I am deep in my disability? Would I have laughed at this shit as a 19-year-old? Maybe. But I'm sorry, like, I don't see what's funny about someone having the physical ability to do something because someone else doesn't. That's why. Anyway, that's it. Let me get off that. But I just wanted to share that. So Dave Chappelle's The Dreamer. I dream that this nigga will give us 60 minutes of jokes instead of 12 minutes of Snickers. You feel me? Like, I can't say I want the old Dave back. I want Dave to live up to the comedic genius moniker that perhaps he has been undeservedly given. He's not Carlin. He's not Gregory. He's not a lot of motherfuckers. And I need for us to understand that in the pantheon of great comics, I don't think that Dave Chappelle is near the top. And that's just real.